This is the repair section I made, and I've just started the process of fitting. Just put the fold in the bottom here, just making sure it's nice and level. What I'll be doing next is folding this section here. Now, there's a bit of a problem with that at the moment, in that I want to make sure that the door is fitted properly. Now, when I put the skins on, I did a rough fit, but I didn't do a final fit. So what I'm going to do is to put the door back on and get a final fit, certainly at the rear, but while I'm at it I might as well do the bottom and front and rear. So when I'm certain that the door is fitting the body and the outer sill, then I'll actually shape this. Now, I've got to put the fold in, but also this has a slight curve in it. Now, I've cut the, can't see it at the moment because it's behind that. It's not a large repair. This is oversized, of course. From memory, it's about here it will come through, and then up around there. So it's not a large section, but I've got to get this section right. As I say, it will have a slight curve, not a lot, but enough to make a difference. And also I need to make sure that the fold follows the line of the door. So as I say, I just did that roughly. This repair section is easily big enough. It fits, the shape is right, but the fit around the doorway is important. So hence the need now to stop this and get back onto the door and make sure that the fit of the door is exactly where I need it to be. I've spent the best part of an hour and a half just working on the leading edge of the door from here to here. Now, as I said, I had this roughly fitted, but it wasn't finely fitted, and that's what I'm now doing. So just on this leading edge, I've been filing the curve, and it highlights, of course, the highs and lows. I've just been chasing the lows. I've got most of them out. It's just a few small little pieces here and there, and there's a couple of low spots just near the edge. I'm not worried about those just yet, because the aim is to get the fitting of the door right and make sure there are no undulations in the outer panel. In terms of the actual edge, what I've also got to do is, when I've got the door fitted up to the hole, I have to make sure the gaps are right. Now, there is likely to be a need to put a bit of weld in parts of the edge of the door here, so for that reason I'm not worried about just little spots close to the edge, because I'm going to have to finish that again once I put any weld in. So as I say, I've got probably from here to here. That's pretty close. I'm now working my way around the top. So I've just started to file that. A couple of small low spots there and one here. I've got to bring those up. So at least I'm sitting down doing it, using a range of hammers, from the skinning hammer to this small hammer, and then to the pick, just to get some of the finer bits up. Also using a combination of dollies. Sometimes I'll use the rubber block, other times I'll use these little hand dollies, depending on where I'm working. It's gradually getting there. If anyone's watched the videos that chap from Monocoque has put on about doors, one thing he mentions is that he actually doesn't like doing doors because of the amount of time and effort required, and I fully support that. Luckily I'm only doing 2 doors. I'm not doing it for a living, so I'll continue this. I'll do along this front edge. I may do an initial look along the bottom. There's a few low spots I've got to bring up along there, but I'll concentrate on this front section so I can make sure it's fitting properly to the bulkhead panel. So I'll probably do this section along certainly the leading edge and along the top here, and then fit the door up again to make sure everything's right. Make sure it's right with the bulkhead panel that sits here, and then I'll continue along the door. Now I've rehung the door. The door fits the hole, certainly. It's fitting pretty close at the rear end, and along the bottom a little bit out at the rear end there, so I may need to either twist the door, or perhaps that's a problem with the bottom flange. So there's a lot of work to do yet before I get the door fitting right. Once I know the door is fitting right, then I can continue with that rear wheel arch panel. I'll finish the actual door fitting. It's fitting in the hole properly. The edges are aligning, although the gaps are not quite right. I'm not worried about the gaps at this stage. I'll finish the gaps when I've finished doing the panels. But the fit is right. Fits quite nicely around there, so that now gives me the proper shape for this lower panel, this rear wing panel that I've got to put in. So I'll put that in next, and sort of continue along here to finish this section. So that's the next piece to start working on. Now I'm just fitting this repair section to place. The size of the repair I've finalised. I've just got to do a little bit of clean up on this corner here. But what I'm doing is actually fitting the repair section to the shape of the car. Now this is a flat repair section when it was made, which is the same as the commercial ones. They're all flat, but I'm trying to fit it to a curved surface, and particularly around the wheel opening. I've fitted the rear section. That's now following the shape of the car. I've almost got the join there right. It's just a little bit out. A little bit more work to do on that. But this section here, I've just got to shrink this area here to bring this in. Now I could push it in, but that's not what I want to do. I want to actually bring this section here around in line with the inner guard. So it's not quite there yet. So a little bit of shrinking to do in here to bring that in. And then I'll see what I need to do. Now this will be all tack screwed onto here, onto the repair section, when I've got it right. I'm not ready to do that until I finalise the shape. And by the way, the noise is rain on the roof. Not much I can do about that either. I can probably do more about this than I can do about the rain on the roof. Anyway, a little bit more work to do before I start screwing things in position. I haven't got the step flange in here yet, and I won't do that until I've finalised the shape of the repair section. I've finally got the patch panel fitted. I've had a little bit of difficulty with the body. There was originally accident damage along this side, and this area here was stretched. So I've just been progressively getting the stretch out with a shrinking disc. I can probably take a little bit more, but what I'm doing now is actually marking where the step flange is going to be. So I've got a few Tech screws in just to hold the panel in the right position, and then I'm going to score this along here, which will then give me a position for the step flange. So I'll be putting that in, score this first, pull this out, trim the back of the panel. It's still a bit oversized, so I need to trim it back so I can have, I think it works out to be about a 10mm step flange in there. So it's taken quite some time to get this far. The holes in the body panel here at this stage are only enough to take the Tech screws. When I've got the step flange in, I'll increase the size of the ones here to accommodate a plug weld. So anyway, it's progressing, albeit very slowly, but it seems to be fitting correctly now. I still haven't trimmed the flange here, it's still oversized, but I've marked that ready for trimming. So when I'm trimming the top piece, I'll be trimming that as well, and getting it ready for basically a final screw fit. I've finally fitted the repair section. It's taken quite some time to get the fit. The problem I've had is the damage here. I've had to shrink this a little bit more to get it to fit better, which is now quite good. Got the step flange in, Tech screws are in place. It's basically ready to weld in. What I need to do first before I weld, of course, is do the plug weld holes along the bottom so I don't have a spot welder, and I'll open the holes in the panel here sufficient for a plug weld under the Tech screws, so I've got to do that as well. Before I can weld that section in, of course, I need to probably finish the outer sill. Now that outer sill is only held in with Tech screws. I'll need to weld that in so I can get the right fit along this seam here. I can't actually weld this panel in and then fit the sill the way I've done the repairs under there, so I think I will just weld this sill in and then start welding. Well, this end panel's got to be welded in. Got to do that. I've got to do some trimming in there on that. So there's a lot of plug weld holes I've got to drill, not only in the end panel but along the bottom of the sill and also in the doorway. So there's a few plug welds. It's going to take quite some time to prepare it for welding, but I might as well weld up the sill and this repair section. As for this bottom valance section, or bell section, whatever you want to call it, I probably won't weld that in yet because it's easier to put the boot in, the boot floor, which I haven't welded in, it's just sitting over there, it's been fitted, but it's probably easier to weld the boot floor in if these aren't in place. Just the way the fitting is, these actually fit over the the top of the boot floor along that seam there, so it's a lot easier if I can just drop the boot in and then put these in and then fit them over the top and then plug weld them. So I won't be welding these in. I'll weld everything in here and then go to the other side and do the same repair on that side. So having had a little bit of practice with this one, it should go a little bit easier. I'm going to weld this in the way Chuck Hadley suggested to do it. It won't be a complete seam weld. At the moment there's no distortion. Okay, there was a bit of accident damage. I've got most of that out. I've filled up the dent puller holes, but I don't want to add any more distortion by seam welding this. So the plug welds will go where the Tex screws are, and then there'll be some, at this stage I'll probably use MIG. I'll put some MIG tacks along the seam. Not continuous tacks, but enough to hold it solidly in place. It's with the Tex screws, it's quite a solid panel as it is. There's no flex, so it's kept the curve. It seems to be a consistent tunnel curve all the way along. So certainly I don't want to distort that by getting carried away with the welding. I've been getting the end plate ready to weld in, and what I've done is to put some weld through primer along the areas that I'm going to weld, and also put some silver galvanizing paint inside. Just the cans I happen to use. High zinc rating, 99%. So that's all ready to weld the plate on. The plate here, I've drilled all the plug weld holes, and it's ready to just drop in. I can drop that in one-handed. Okay, so it's ready to go in. What I'll be doing is plug welding along here, and also I'll probably do a bit of seam welding along the edge, because I'm going to fold this down. Now when I pulled the old one off, it was actually folded over and welded to the inside of the inside panel on the guard. So I'll do the same, but I'll plug weld first, and then I'll tip this edge over and then do a seam weld along the bottom there. So it's ready. I'll weld that in first, and then I'll start on the outer sill. I haven't drilled the plug weld holes for that yet, so I've got to do that. And I'll use the silver galvanizing paint on the inside of this. It's already done with red primer, but I'll use the silver paint. It's got a better seal, and I'll cover the inside of the sill with that, including the inside of the outer sill that's just sitting up there. So I'll start welding, as I say, just start welding this plate in, and then proceed on to the outer sill. I've just sprayed the inside of the sill with a coat of, or a couple of coats of zinc-rich silver paint, galvanizing paint. That's over the red oxide, so that should seal it up quite nicely. Put a bit of weld through primer on the bits I've got to weld. So I'm just waiting for this to dry off. Then I'll screw the whole thing together. I've prepared everything for welding. All the plug weld holes have been drilled in the sill, and I've got Tex screws positioned all the way along, so I've got enough there to hold everything nice and tight while I weld. So as I say, I'll wait for this to dry off properly, and then I'll screw it back on and then start welding the sill into place. The sill is now back on. Filled tech screws around to hold it in place, clamps around the flanges. I haven't put the clamps around the front flange yet, but I will do that. So it's ready to weld. There are about roughly 100 plug welds to do and numerous seam welds. So there's seam welds in that side bulkhead there, same here. Do a bit of a seam weld up on the jacking point there. So there's quite a lot of welding to do. To get this far, it's probably taken between 10 and 12 hours. That's to do a final fit of the sill and then get everything ready to the stage it is now. So it's not a short process, even though I'd already basically fitted the sill, although not a fine fit as with the door. There were still some tweaks to do to get it, the flanges perfectly right. So anyway, it's all done now. So now I'll start that welding process.